All right, welcome in, everybody. It is a Thursday edition of Sports Daily, a jam-packed Thursday coming for you. We'll get to our buddy Tim Fitzgerald, our K-State insider, here in just a minute. We will have Adrian Griffin inducted into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. That's coming at the top of the next hour. We'll catch up with Chelsea Messenger next week, so she's off today. We've got plenty to talk about, though. We've got more NFL scheduling notes out there. We have some portal news to get to, literally breaking at the moment. All kinds of stuff. I'm Jacob Albracht alongside Tommy Castor, Jad Chambers producing. Your calls on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240 is the number. Real quick, before we get to Fitz, some KU news coming in the last handful of minutes here. Ernest Uday is entering the transfer portal. Very interesting, certainly unexpected. Tommy, we'll get into this later in the show. Now another scholarship for KU, and all of a sudden they look real thin in their bigs. If KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson are going to play at the same time, who's the backup center?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we know Zuby Ejiofor is also in the transfer portal, and now Ernest Uday. I did not see this, so you're telling me this right here on the spot. I'm surprised by this because I thought that Uday would be a capable backup this season for Dickinson,
me too,
and then be able to roll into maybe the starting role next season. But that's the world of the transfer portal. I know that there is a lot of speculation right now that Mackenzie Mbako, who was the 5-star recruit that decommitted from Duke, will commit to Kansas tomorrow. That's a lot of speculation. He's choosing between Kansas and Indiana. He's not a big, though. He's a wing. He's got a lot of length, but I don't know. That's interesting. I did not hear that, and I'm kind of surprised by that.
Me too. Let's get to our buddy Tim Fitzgerald, our K-State insider. We'll get some perspective on this from an outsider to the program to see what we think. Here comes Tim.
He's got all the insight on what you want to know and maybe some of what you don't want to know. Here's K-State insider Tim Fitzgerald.
All right, Fitz. So Uday goes in. This is interesting. Dickinson, obviously a big ad, and some of the NIL conversations around Dickinson that you hear rumors of it looking like a 2-year commitment from him. Maybe that's a part of it. But Ernest Uday is in. And KU, who looked like maybe the favorite, probably still is, but this is a big loss. What do you think of that?
Well, speaking generally about the NIL, this can blow up a locker room. I mean, when you bring in a guy getting paid significantly more than other guys that have been on the team, there's going to be resentment. And in a pool of 13 scholarship players, it's amplified. It's not like even a football locker room where you got 85 guys, and the walk-ons are so intermingled in football. It's like 100 guys. Basketball, we saw it with Miami last year. They had to put out a fire once Nigel Pack showed up. Other guys that had been on the team were like, how about us? Why are you paying this outsider more? They figured that out, but it's going to be a challenge for all these programs giving out significant NIL money or having collectives do it on their behalf. It's going to be a real challenge trying to keep the locker room together.
It's interesting, Fitz, because, what do we do with – because now we just get one transfer, right? And I think that's eventually going to settle this a little bit. But in K-State hasn't really had to go through this quite yet, but they will when you have a lot of talented young players, but and it's not even as much as the NIL, is it, as much as the transfer portal? Because it's not like Uday – it's not like Hunter Dickinson's money, I think, had as much of an impact on this as it is Uday just lost minutes, right? Seemingly. And that becomes the problem, like that balance of your talented young players and then even more talented, experienced players coming in through the portal.
I'm telling you, a basketball locker room being such a small environment can be explosive. One of the things Bill Self's been a master at, and I think we've seen Jerome Tang in one season do it too, is to build that locker room culture, that sense of unity. But boy, all these transfers in and out, the money changing hands, it just adds so many factors to trying to keep a locker room cohesive. This is a really good player that just hit the portal. And, Jerome Tang said it from the start. We're going to see a lot of people go in the portal in the last day. And this could be a very interesting time right now.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit turned into the cost of doing business, I guess, in the world of NIL and all of that. Hey, Fitz, of course, the big story with K-State this week, the news that the university and Chris Kleiman are working on finalizing a new contract for him that will make him, at least right now, the third highest paid coach in the Big 12 behind Mike Gundy and Brent Venables, and in the top 25 nationally. What do we know? What's the latest? The timeline on this? When does it look like it's going to be finalized?
I'm told they're just waiting on signatures. I don't know about you guys, but you put a contract anywhere near me that has all those zeros behind it, I'm signing it. I don't know if I'm giving away my soul to the devil, but I'm going to sign that. Damn the fine print. Actually, I think they're trying to announce multiple things at once, and it's coordinating with coaches and agents and getting that all done. But it'll come out here pretty soon. This contract will never see its end, because at 8 years, it gives him a lot of stability, and he can really talk to recruits about that he's there for life. But by the time we get into year 3 or 4, that contract will be dated in comparison to his peers, and they'll have to redo it to kind of keep him up with the Joneses. But it's a really good sign. This is what K-State's big push right now is. They're working on a track and field, the indoor for them, and the old football indoor. That's a physical project, but these contracts, endowing as much money as possible from donors to keep the contracts for their head coaches and key assistants competitive, is the huge push of Gene Taylor right now.
Gene Taylor is probably going to have a statue at some point, Fitz. But the Kleiman deal is great news for K-State fans. Everyone should be excited. I can't help but think about Colin Klein. What do you think long-term this deal means for Colin Klein? When he turned down some big-time programs, I think everyone was like, all right, he's going to be a K-Stater for life. He'll be, the heir apparent at some point. That probably goes out the window with a deal like this, don't you think? Somebody's going to get him before he has that sort of chance at K-State now.
Well, I've always felt he would leave K-State to be a head coach, not a coordinator. And I think that's his next step, is to, everyone's looking for young, rising, particularly offensive coordinators. You can be a defensive one too and gain that kind of luster. But everyone wants that young star. That's the trendy thing now. Those old guys are out. Everyone's looking for fresh new faces instead of grizzled old veterans. And that means Colin Klein, if K-State continues to have success and his offense thrives in the next few years, is going to get some head coaching opportunities. I think, a place like Colorado State, although they've hired recently, it's just perfect for him to get to go home. So we'll see what happens with this, but I think Colin Klein at some point will be the head coach of Kansas State. I also think it won't be his first head coaching position, as he'll start off somewhere else.
I know that having all of this success in both football and basketball with your head coaches, it's a kind of an abundance of riches for Gene Taylor right now. But also along with that comes the obligation, or at least the responsibility, you would think, to, try to take care of not only the head coaches, but the assistant coaches and, the pool for money and all of that. And you've got to find money coming, to them from a lot of different places. So how does Gene Taylor navigate all of that? You're working on a contract for Chris Kleiman. Jerome Tang's probably going to get a payday pretty soon. How in the world is Gene Taylor navigating all of this with all the money that's going to come due to them?
And it's really tough at Kansas State, and here's why. Kansas State, since John Curry, has been one of the most fiscally responsible athletic departments in the entire nation. They don't run at a deficit. In fact, in the past, they've given money back to the university. They're not taking any money from the university or the students. They're operating solely on their revenue. And so that means if you want to do something big, you got to go find donors. And finding donors for, building up a war chest to pay coaches is a lot less sexy than having your name on a building. So the way he's managing these waters, and not just throwing money around to live in the moment and not worry about it. I mean, he's in his 60s. He could easily, kind of go into the hole a little bit and hand that off to the next AD, and he'd look great with all the contracts he handed out. But that's not the way to do business at Kansas State, and he's doing an incredible job of navigating that and figuring out the way to keep his coaches happy, to build buildings, to do all the things he needs to do as an athletic department and not run a deficit. It's been brilliant leadership by Gene Taylor, there's no doubt.
Fitz, okay, well then let's do this game. The most impressive thing Gene Taylor's done since coming to Manhattan is what?
His sense, his instinct for people. And what I mean by that is you could look at Chris Kleiman's resume and knew he was a good coach. But he weathered the storm and hired that guy when a lot of fans were really pushing back at him hiring his, quote, buddy from North Dakota State. And then he translated that into Jerome Tang and recognized the goodness of the man while, checking on his credentials as a coach. But he went out and hired two coaches that fit the culture extremely well. Just didn't find good coaches. He found good coaches that fit at Kansas State and that the fans love. And to find success with those other factors is threading the needle, guys, and he's done an incredible job of that.
Well, let's chat real quick about the transfer portal. I know we talked about that in regards to KU at the beginning of the segment, but as it relates to Kansas State and Jerome Tang, where do things stand right then with the roster, and who is Tang targeting right now?
Well, as he said from the start, we're going to see some late entrants here, and we're there. We're going to see who comes in today and kind of figure out who's available. But we've got a pretty in-depth piece behind our paywall for our subscribers. They still need a guard. They still need a big man that can defend the rim and run the floor, give them a little more strength in the middle. That's how their season is. That was always their Achilles heel, is if a big man had a big night, they really didn't have an answer for it. And that's what they ran into. I think they're going to find the right pieces, but they're going to go find another experienced guard. And Jacob, you alluded to this. So now he's got three, small forward to point guard positions, guys coming in, all top 100 players in the nation. They're all coming in together, and Jerome Tang's out there getting transfer portal experienced guards because he knows you've got to have experience at the guard position to compete for the national title. You just don't get deep into the tournament without experienced guards. So how long are those young studs going to be happy being backups? What's the balance here between when he turns it over to them? Does he recruit another group of experienced guards next year over the top of them? And, that would be a very similar situation to what we're seeing now at Kansas. A young guy, trying to aspire to move up to the starting lineup and is blocked by another transfer portal pickup. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think based on what they did last year, I'm not worried about them finding good players.
Yeah, it's unnerving, and then you have the situation like KU today, and then it's like, well, I guess you're going to lose some and gain some at the same time. Maybe we all just take a deep breath. Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com editor, K-State insider extraordinaire, leisurely gentleman. Anything else, Fitz? As I set you up here.
No, in fact, I'm laying in my bed because my radiation treatment ended yesterday. So I'm actually not on the road today.
Oh,
so we could go back to 10 o'clock if you want me later. I'm just laying on my butt right now. But I am. My buddies, just when you think radiation sucked, my buddies are taking me to the Royals today. So,
yikes!
Great.
Yikes!
Yeah.
Hey, I do have one more thing.
I hear your body may reject that, so be careful.
Right.
Fitz.
Prolonged
I got one more thing.
The Royals is dangerous.
Yeah. One more thing for you, Fitz, before we let you go. Would love to get your take on the Bob Huggins controversy and the punishment that he got and all of that. Where do you stand on that?
Congratulations to the AD out there for, I think, threading the needle on that one. Nobody at West Virginia wanted Bob Huggins fired. They call him Huggy Bear, not just because it was a 1970s TV character that was wonderful, but he's like a big bear. This is a giant man, kind of growls at you, but at the end of the day is a really good person, a loving guy. He had a horrible moment, and it's really hard at older ages to adjust to new times sometimes and catch up to that. But I'm with everyone else. We'll pay for the streaming service of the Bob Huggins sensitivity training sessions. This could be the greatest Netflix series ever, Bob Huggins in sensitivity training. And you have to mic him real close because he kind of growls everything. He doesn't really talk them. So it's going to be great stuff. I'm looking forward to that on ESPN Plus.
You were able one follow on that, Fitz. I mean, you covered him closely. How surprised were you that we had this situation to begin with?
I don't think surprise is my feeling when I listen to it because I know the man. I heard every bad story about him and then met the man and genuinely loved him. He's actually a really, really good human being. And when I heard the tape and I heard him say it, I'm like, oh no, Bob, no. And it was locker room talk that he put on the air. I'm not convinced he was completely clear he was on the air. I think they were talking through the break a little bit, and I'm even more astonished at the host response and how those guys, as of my knowledge, aren't getting any kind of punishment. But they're the pros. The guest should have been dumped out pretty quickly, and he wasn't, to protect him and the station. So I'm just really sorry to see it for all parties involved. It's just something you don't say. You just don't say it. And there was a day when you did say it in casual conversation.
Yeah. Hopefully he can, learn from it and grow from it. That's my big token. All right, Fitz. Well, what's it GoPowerCat.com right now for everybody to go check out?
My series on previewing Big 12 teams that got me through the end of my radiation is done. We've got a daily delivery today on the Big 12, maybe playing basketball games around the country to tip off the season. I love the idea, but another K-Stater kind of came up with that first. And I want my idea stolen, not his. And we've got the podcast. Our podcast just went up, and I'm not sure what the guys got for written content this afternoon. I told them I'm going to the Royals. Take care of crap, and they will take care of it. They're great dudes.
Royals are scoring runs. Good luck. Feel better, Fitz. Let's do it again next week.
Hey, it's Kids Day at the K, and it's supposed to rain. It's going to be delightful.
It is. They're scoring a ton of runs. You'll get some excitement. They're heating up at least offensively. They may not pitch at all, but at least they're scoring some runs now. All right, Fitz. Be good. Let's do it again next week.
Thanks, boys. There
goes Tim Fitzgerald, editor to GoPowerCat.com. We're going to come back. We'll react to this Ernest Uday news. Caught everybody off guard. I'm like scrambling. I'm getting all kinds of messages here. If you're watching on the video stream of people like, what? So today's the last day to enter the portal too, by the way. So we're going to dissect that, digest that just a little bit. I'm immediately going to go look at Mbake and see, like, can this guy play 5 or what's going to happen here?
No, I don't think so. We'll talk about it though.
Yeah, I don't think he can either, but KJ Adams can. This is going to be interesting. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody, into Sports Daily. Glad to have you here. By the way, you could win a trip to see Guns N' Roses at a U.S. stop of your choice on their 2023 World Tour, including round-trip airfare, hotel tickets, and a $200 gift card. Go to kfhradio.com to enter for the chance to win this national contest. You can get your tickets now at livenation.com. The IHOP hotline is open. 869-1240 is that number. We've got Adrian Griffin being inducted into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. Top of the next hour. Excited to talk to Adrian Griffin. Haven't had the chance to do that. It's been a long time since we've been able to catch up with him. So that'll be interesting to get in there a little bit later. We've got some giveaways coming for you as well throughout the hour here. So excited about that. The news that broke off the top is Ernest Uday is into the portal on the last day that he could get into the portal. Hunter Dickinson comes over. Hunter Dickinson and Tommy, I'm interested in this because we didn't get a chance yesterday to talk about Hunter Dickinson and his, comments on his podcast of, Michigan wasn't even offering him six figures. He basically made the point of like, people give me a hard time. Like, you'd all leave your jobs for a $10,000 raise. What do you think I'm going to do? And Michigan, it's not a knock on Michigan, I think, is him trying to provide some perspective, which I totally agree with, by the way. There are rumors of like a $2 million NIL deal per year for 2 years. And I just wonder with Uday, if there wasn't the rumblings of Dickinson being a 2-year player, if Uday sticks around or if this was a foregone conclusion. I don't think it was a foregone conclusion because I don't think he would have waited until the absolute end to jump in if it was. It's really interesting. And, maybe it's just honest conversations that have happened over the last week or so. But KU now, without Uday, and they've basically had all their centers transfer out. So they lose 3, right? And they gain 1. It was a problem last year. Now, Dickinson's great. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that wouldn't say, yeah, you gain Dickinson and you lose Uday. It's a net win for KU. Of course it is. But you gain Dickinson and you lose all 3 of your centers. Now what? And I think you alluded to it in the beginning. All attention goes to Mackenzie Mbako, who is a big. He's not a center, but he is a big. Maybe that's enough, Tommy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been pretty apparent that if that NIL deal that has been rumored that Dickinson allegedly received $2 million for 2 years, if that's accurate and legitimate, then it's pretty clear that the Jayhawks are going all in on Dickinson, not just for this year, but for next year as well. And that probably signaled to not only Ernest Uday, but Zuby Ejiofor that they were going to be riding the pine, not only this season, but potentially next season as well. And so I wasn't surprised to see Zuby Ejiofor enter the transfer portal because in my mind on the depth chart, he would have went to 3rd on the depth chart at the 5. But, I don't know. I felt like Ernest Uday showed some really good flashes this last season, provided a different kind of game at that position than what KJ Adams could do. He's taller, he's longer than KJ Adams is. But I think that it's been pretty apparent that, if that's what ultimately got Hunter Dickinson to come to KU, then I think in Uday's mind, he thought, well, I'm not going to get a whole lot of playing time, number 1, and maybe I can make more money in NIL at another institution, number 2. So while I'm surprised by the decision, I get it. I understand why we're seeing the bigs transfer out at KU. And now it's going to be up to the Jayhawks to try to figure out how they fill in that backup role at the 5 position. What happens if Hunter Dickinson gets into foul trouble in a game? Who are they going to go with? Are they going to roll back with KJ Adams at the 5 and go with a smaller lineup? What does it mean when you've got, because I would imagine that the plan would be for Dickinson at 5, Adams at the 4 to start. And then what do you do? I mean, like, how do you have a backup role, for somebody if you don't have that person on the roster? So it's going to be important, I think, for Bill Self to go out and try to find a backup.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find a backup. I think, though, I don't know what's still out there. Mbako, backing up KJ Adams and Dickinson to some degree is probably going to be like the highest ceiling outcome that can come of this, right? So, and the thing about Mbako that's interesting, and I have been, and this is before Ernest Uday, right? Now that Ernest Uday's out, like, I really hope KU is able to get Mbako. But it makes it interesting that we have the new transfer thing in there. If you're Mbako now, you can only do this one time for free. So is KU going to be the best spot? Like, what's KJ Adams' long-term future? What's Hunter Dickinson's long-term?
Does that actually, is that the case with Mbako? Because he's a recruit. He's not a transfer. Like, he hasn't played, like, he's coming out of high school. So if he commits, he'll still have a transfer, right? Like,
did he sign a letter of intent? I don't know. I
don't know how that works. I'm not sure how that exactly
works. That's a good point, because I
know he was committed to Duke, but I don't know if he had. I think he might have requested to be released from that letter of intent with Duke, and they agreed. I can't imagine that would count as your transfer, right? You haven't played a game for the team.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know what signing. I guess if they release you from it, you're not transferring. I don't know. Right. Because a letter of intent, if it's signed. Now, was it a commitment or a signed
I don't know.
Letter of intent?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, now I don't know either. So maybe then it does become a little bit, more free for Mbako. That probably increases KU's chances. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, unless it was a signed letter of intent. And I'm trying to look. I'm trying to look if that was the case. That'll be interesting. I'll try and figure out the answer to that. But so I still think that's the best possible outcome. I don't know though if it's the high, it's not the highest floor outcome. It might be the highest ceiling outcome, but it's not the highest floor outcome, right? Like, is there anybody out there that can provide depth at the level KU needs it to be at? Because right now there isn't really any. Like, what is it behind Adams and Dickinson right now? I mean, it's
it. That's literally it. As it stands right now. I mean, there are two returners from last season's team in DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams. That's it. That is literally it, returning from last year's team. There's not another big man behind Hunter Dickinson and then, KJ Adams. But, I don't know. Can Mbako play the 4? And if Mbako plays the 4, then you could slide Adams to the 5. If
I think that's what you have to do.
I think that'd probably be the way that you would go. Yep. But of course, you would like to have a little bit more insurance and have at least another big man on the roster, on the bench. And so, while Bill Self, I've got no doubt he will be able to try to, move the pieces around and slide players in different areas. And Adams has experience at the 5, and he could back up Dickinson at the 5 while also starting at the 4. That's all well and good. You need another body, though, to come off the bench.
But it's not just another body. If you let's say you don't get Mbako, then it's not just a body. Like, you've got to have somebody that can play, right? Like, you got to have somebody.
They have 3 scholarships available as of right now, with Kyle Cuff transferring, Zuby Ejiofor transferring, and now Ernest Uday transferring. There are 3 open scholarships as of this second right now. Assuming Mbako commits, you've got 2. So you've got 2 players that you can work with. And, of course, we mentioned before, it's the final day that players can enter the transfer portal. There could easily be additional targets out there, that Bill Self goes after to try to fill those 2 remaining roster spots.
Okay, so I'm looking at what I think is the portal, a portal listing on 24/7. I have no idea. There is an NC State center named Isaiah Miranda, who I think has not committed anywhere. There's a power forward from Creighton, Arthur Kaluma, who we know more about, but that
he might be an NBA guy. I think he was one of the guys that tested the waters in the NBA. Maybe he pulled out. I don't know, but he was pretty.
They have a while. They have a while to be able to pull out. Let's see. There's a couple other power forwards. There's a Maryland power forward. I'm just looking at, and I don't know these players at all, so I'm just looking at their star ratings basically. And you go down, there's some guys. There's a guy from Nebraska. Anybody know about Wilhelm Breidenbach? He's a center.
It's a hell of a name.
I know he looks like a Wilhelm Breidenbach too. That's a center in the portal right now with a couple of years who I don't think is committed. I'm trying to see if there's any familiar names that we know. There's the KU guys in there are all pretty highly rated. But it's interesting. It's really, anybody know if Mo Udesi still has any eligibility? Like where's that really experienced player that can come in and give minutes? There are probably plenty of guys that KU can go get that haven't been on KU's radar, who will now become on KU's radar, that will be like, heck yeah, let me come play for KU, right? And really, like, the opportunity's there. And Mbako's going to have something to do with this, right? But there's going to be a pretty big opportunity for somebody to be able to come in and contribute, because what KU lacks right now is minutes. Like, because at that position, like, Dickinson can't play a full game. In the combination of Dickinson and Adams for sure can't play a full game. So, if it's Mbako, who's very young and we don't know a whole lot about, obviously, other than he's really talented, can he slide in right away and play the 4 at this level? I don't know. And if he does, like, what happens if both Dickinson and Adams need a minute? Then what do you do? Right? Like, who?
Yeah. Look, I've tried to, in my mind, assuming Mbako commits to Kansas, I've tried to project in my mind what the starting 5 would look like for Kansas. And really, outside of DeJuan Harris at point guard, probably KJ Adams at the 4 and Dickinson at the 5. That's really all I've got. I mean, is Mbako?
Yeah, but they have enough for the 2 other spots.
I know. I'm just I'm wondering who those players are going to be. Like, is Mbako talented enough to start right away at the wing? And then who's the shooting guard going to be? Is it Nick Timberlake from Towson? Is it Elmarco Jackson, who was a highly touted recruit coming in? Is he going to be able to start from the beginning? Arterio Morris, the Texas Longhorns transfer that's coming in, will he start right away? I just don't know. And there are a lot of times where you've got teams, and not just at KU, but in general, where you look at their roster and you're like, all right, I can pinpoint exactly who that starting 5 is. I'm not sure. Especially at shooting guard and at wing, who Bill Self is going to want to go with. And there's time to figure that out. But that part of it's really interesting to me.
So I'm looking at Adam Finkelstein, the director of scouting for 24/7's scouting report on Mbako. And he's a shooter, according to Finkelstein. Just, he's 6'8", 210. He's a big dude. He's a national top 10 player, but he can shoot, according to this, right? And, so maybe is he even a fit to be a true power forward? I don't know. I mean, he's 6'8", but other than that, like, if his game is more on the outside, maybe he does fit as a potential starter, but not at 4, at 3, right? Like, that's interesting too. Hopefully, and what I would assume will happen now is KU can go find some really experienced bigs. But the problem with that is, at the top end of that, people are in the portal so they can go play. Now, there may be some people who are in it to go try to win a national championship. And those are the players you have to identify, right? Like, who's willing to come in and, try to ride this with us through a national championship, and who's coming in because they got to have more minutes. And maybe there's talented guys that are be willing to come in and take a lesser role than whatever they just left. Maybe. I mean, I suppose that's what Kevin McCullough did to some degree, right? Like, he sort of did that. Remy Martin certainly did that. So maybe it's out there. Maybe you can go find that senior that just wants to take a shot at a natty. Has anybody checked in with Mitch Lightfoot? Does he have a 9th year of eligibility?
What's Perry Ellis doing?
Where is Perry Ellis right now? Yeah, like, where's some of those?
The one other thing I want to point out is that we did see flashes from Ernest Uday last season, and I have no doubt in my mind that getting Hunter Dickinson was the best possible thing that could have happened in the portal for the Jayhawks. He is an immediate game changer. He makes KU, an immediate title contender with DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, and, whoever else is out there for KU. So that's all well and good. That's great. That being said, keep your eyes on where Ernest Uday ends up, because that guy has a chance to be great at whatever school he goes to.
Go to K-State.
He's going to be somebody that we're going to be talking about and watching for the next couple of years and saying, man, that guy developed into a fantastic big man in college basketball.
Go to K-State. Give us the storyline. Zuby didn't do it. Come on, Uday. Do it. Do it. Go. Give us that juice. Give us that drama. Let's see it happen. Go somewhere where we can watch. I agree. I think he'll be good. Man, we did not expect that news today. Don't know why. I guess it shouldn't be that wild and unexpected. I just did not see it coming. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to hit some quick topics, a couple of Chiefs scheduling notes. We'll get to Adrian Griffin. We'll give you the latest on the Chiefs schedule, and we'll dive into it in hour number 2. Let's give away some Fast X tickets here. It's the latest Fast and Furious movie hitting theaters next week. We got pairs of tickets to a special Thursday preview at Boulevard Theaters in Town West Square, 7 o'clock. First caller to the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. We'll get a pair of tickets. We'll be right back. All right, congratulations to Zach scoring a pair of Fast X tickets. I'll give you a couple more chances to win those today, so no sweat if you didn't win it that time around. We'll put those back up on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240, as we make our way through. All right, before we get to Adrian Griffin to start the next hour, let's hit on just a few more scheduling notes that we get today as it pertains to the Chiefs. The big one is the kickoff game. We get it. We know what it is. It's Lions. It's Chiefs. A surprise for a lot of people that the NFL in its most high-profile game will put the Lions there. But
yuck.
Why do you say yuck? What's wrong with that game?
I hate it. There were so many better options than the Detroit Lions to kick off the season for Kansas City. So many. Like, I would have rather even had Sean Payton and Russell Wilson and the Broncos kick off the season than the Lions. At least it's
the Lions were 9-8 last year.
At least it's a divisional rivalry opponent with the Broncos. The Lions, it's like, who cares? Who cares if they play the Lions?
You wanted to see on opening night the Chiefs beat somebody by 20?
They're a rival. They're a divisional rival.
I would have put the Chargers there. That's what I would have done. Herbert, Mahomes. The Bills, I think they're probably, saving for a late season matchup. The Dolphins, we know, are gone. The Bengals, we know, are gone. So then it becomes, and I don't know, the Eagles, I don't think you're going to put a Super Bowl. Well, yeah, but you're not going to put a Super Bowl rematch in week 1.
Come on, that would have been awesome.
I get why they don't want to do that, but you've got Eagles and Bills. If I'm the NFL, I put those later in the year. I would have gone Chargers because you get 2 matchups against the Chargers, and I just would have made one of them right out of the gates. I for sure would not have been Denver. Might be my last choice. And then you've got Chicago, too much. They're not good enough yet. I think the Lions are fine. I think that Dan Campbell is interesting. There's still some buzz there. And does anybody think the Lions are going to be worse than they were a year ago? The Lions were pesky.
Well, the problem that I have with it is that there's literally no juice to this matchup at all. There's nothing that would tell me like, oh, it's going to be an exciting matchup because you're going to have the Chiefs taking on the Lions and there's this storyline. And like, there are so many storylines that the Chiefs have in their season and their opponents. But the Lions are not one of them. And so I hate the fact that that's the kickoff game.
I don't hate the fact. Like, to me, it was the Chargers. Like, the Bills would have been awesome, but it's just like that could be such a critical game late in the season. I get it. I mean, the Lions were what did they were like 5-1 down the stretch last year, including some pretty impressive wins. They beat the Vikings, they beat the Jags, who were a playoff team, 40-14.
That's great. That's all. I don't have anything against the Lions. I don't have anything
clearly
against Dan Campbell.
You do have something against the Lions,
but the game
you would like
means
this matchup.
Nothing. The game means nothing for the Chiefs. There is it's a out of conference game to kick off the season. It means absolutely nothing for them. At least if they're playing the Broncos, there's a divisional aspect to it.
If that game means nothing, then the Eagles game means nothing, right?
It's a Super Bowl rematch. There's a storyline there. Like, you can build a narrative around that. What are you going to build? You're going to say Andy Reid versus Dan Campble? Okay. Like, who cares?
You're going to say the defending champions against an up-and-coming team. Like, you don't. Right. What storyline do you need? You think you're going to tune in? You think people aren't going to tune in? I think they are, NFL,
but they're going to care less about that matchup as they would against another opponent.
They'll care the exact same. It's the opening matchup. Here's the thing that stands out about it to me is the NFL's confidence in the Lions. It's the Lions. And the NFL is confident enough that they're going to keep getting better. That's what surprises me, because that to me is a little bit risky. Like, I think there's a chance the Lions could not be good this year. I don't think it's going to happen, but I asked that question earlier. Does anybody think the Lions aren't going to be good again? I think the answer to that is yes. There's a lot of people that think the Lions aren't going to be good again. I don't care if they're good or bad.
I don't care if they're good or bad. They could be a playoff team. I don't care. I care very little, if anything, about the Detroit Lions, especially considering that's how the Chiefs are starting the season. There were so many better options on the table.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I would have gone Chargers. I think the Chargers made the most sense, but, whatever. The Bengals would have been the most fun, but that game was moved. And, okay. And then the Dolphins would have been, are you kidding me? Tyreek Hill's return. but they used up. It's like they used up all their capital in other places, and they weren't going to put Bills. I never thought they'd put Bills there because they need that game to be later in the year. So it is what it is. There it is. And then they play. Oh, we didn't even mention they play the Raiders. Who cares on Christmas Day? It's cool that they're playing Christmas Day, but that's who that one is. They'll play the Christmas Day game. It'll be against the Raiders. A nice rivalry game. The NFL better hope Vegas is better than they were a year ago. 869-1240, Adrian Griffin coming on the other side of the break. We'll have an induction into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame as Sports Daily rolls on a Thursday.
Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you. Jad Chambers producing. Paul Savage jumping in as we get ready for another Wichita Sports Hall of Fame induction. Maybe the biggest name, most high profile on the list this year, Adrian Griffin, former Wichita East star, college star, NBA star, now NBA coach. Adrian, welcome into the program here on Sports Daily. Glad to have you, and congratulations on the honor for the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame today.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm just so delighted. Just such a great honor to be honored by your hometown. So, man, it's hard to put in words, but thanks for having me on.
You know, it's one of those things where I know you've seen the list in the last 20 years of some of the people inducted. Makes you shake your head, doesn't it? And you think to yourself, wow, do I deserve that? But you do. Of all people I know, you sure do. And Adrian, I just want to welcome to Sports Daily here on KFH. And you're the I think the 5th inductee that we've done so far this year. Now, Adrian Griffin, guys, is somebody that's really special. He was All-State 2 times at East. He was a 92 state championship won a championship at East. He was a 3-year starter at Seton Hall and was all Big East. After a 9-year playing career in the NBA, which included the Celtics, the Mavericks, the Rockets, the Bulls, and the Seattle Seahawks. He went on to a coaching career in the NBA, coaching the Bucks, the Bulls, and the Magic. That's pretty good stuff. And of course, I've always thought to myself, man, you were something special. By the way, this is my 2nd Hall of Fame that I've actually had the honor of voting for you to be inducted. I was on the board of directors with the Wichita East Hall of Fame as well. So you're my 2nd vote this time. So it's really fun to do. But I guess I've just got to start this interview out, Jacob, if you don't mind. I usually don't want to insult our inductees, but you went to Seton Hall in New Jersey. New Jersey.
Correct.
What were you thinking?
Oh, wow, man. At the time, I was getting recruited by a lot of mid-majors, but I've always had that dream of wanting to play major D1 basketball. And at the time, KU just was not recruiting me. Obviously, that was my #1 pick from Wichita, Kansas. I would have loved to play at KU at the time. But Seton Hall came in the picture at the last minute, and TJ Carlissimo was the head coach at the time. And he came and watched one of my state championship games. I think it was a semifinal game. And I scored like 33 points. And after that, he offered me a scholarship. So I ended up playing in the Big East. So it was a dream come true. I kind of grew up. It was funny because we got some of the Big East games growing up in Kansas, just on television at times, here and there. And I was always infatuated with the Big East, Syracuse and Georgetown at the time, and Seton Hall. I remember when they lost to Duke in the NCAA tournaments, and I always kind of favored the underdog. So, yeah, I went out to it was probably not by choice, but because no one no other teams were really recruiting me at the time.
Well, we'll let that one slide, but New Jersey, for God's sakes, I don't get it. Jacob, take the next one. I think I'm feeling better about his answer now.
Adrian, right now in your long career that Paul laid out nicely there, it's the NBA. And there are reports out now that, the Raptors need a head coach and you may be a candidate for that. How badly do you want to be an NBA head coach? And, what does that look like for you at the moment?
Well, it's something that I've worked hard to position myself to be a head coach in the NBA. I think a lot of it is just you want to share your experiences and broaden your influence. I've kind of done things the hard way as far as nothing was handed easy to me. And just growing up in Wichita, Kansas, my mom and dad instilled a lot of great values in me. I really had to work really hard. And you just kind of want to transfer some of those lessons along to this new generation. A lot of people ask me about, what's the difference between this generation and the generation I grew up in. And it's not much other than, they are fun to coach. They really care about their development. And I think as coaches, we just have to adjust and adapt a little bit. You want to keep those same values. It's just the way you deliver them. I think the relationship part is very important. But it's something that I've worked hard, as a player. I played 9 years. I've coached under some great leaders, some great coaches, Hall of Fame coaches. And you just want to take what you've learned and transfer it over to this new generation. I feel like I've paid my dues, and I'm just ready for the next opportunity.
Well, you have played for and you have coached with literally some of the greatest coaches in the NBA, some of the greatest coaches in college basketball history. Is there anybody that you have kind of taken what they do and made it your own and massaged that? That happens to all of us. I've coached 30 years. I've done the same thing. My mentor was Mo Lattimore at Kansas State. 99% of what I teach in techniques I got from Mo Lattimore. Do you have a guy just like that?
Man, it's extremely hard to pinpoint one coach. All coaches that I've had just had a tremendous impact on me, and you kind of take bits and pieces from all those coaches, and you learn what not to do as well at times. You try to be. I always talk to young coaches about just being engaged in your own development. Just don't leave it up to chance. There's times when in huddles, like if Nick Nurse is drawing up a play, I'll be in the back and I'll draw up that same play, and I listen to his terminology and kind of pay attention to when he uses it and why he called a timeout here. So I try to take responsibility for my own development. That's very important for a lot of young coaches. I think a lot of them kind of just, go through the season, but you got to really be engaged because unlike professional sports where I was extremely limited to my physical abilities, but coaching is really, it's up to you how hard you want to work, how much you want to put into it. You're really not limited by anything except your own imagination and hard work. But, I remember working for and playing for Jeff Van Gundy. He was very detail oriented. He always talked about the spacing and how important, if you didn't fake a pass to make a pass with your post feeds, you had to do it again. It was sort of like perfect offense. Or he would say, hey, you're supposed to be 6 inches to the left and you're 6 inches to the right. And then I had Tom Thibodeau. I coached with Tom Thibodeau 5 years and Scott Skiles 5 years. They were very hard-nosed coaches, they're very defensive-minded coaches. So, Billy Donovan, I just kind of loved the way he never, he was always under control. He never lost his temper with the players. And I always used to marvel how he can communicate. So, I will always work on my communication skills after watching him just interact with the players. So all the coaches that I've had, I was extremely just fortunate. I remember playing for Don Nelson. He would always say, make the defense adjust to you or make the other team adjust to us. There were times that we would throw Dirk Nowitzki on the floor with like 4 guards, and sometimes we'd go, we go big with Sean Bradley and Dirk Nowitzki and Ray Filafran sometimes. So it was just fun how he just had a great that. Now we didn't work on defense, but our offense was tremendous. But you take the pieces from all the coaches. So I'm extremely fortunate for it. Even going back to college, I had PJ Carlesimo, who I have a greater appreciation for now that I'm in the NBA, because back in college he was preparing us for the NBA style of play, and by the time I got to the NBA, I look back and said, whoa, PJ, he was preparing us for that. A lot of the fundamentals of the game, I was able to hit the ground running because I was taught that way back in college. So coaching was a lot harder than I ever imagined. When I retired, I went right into coaching. So I really, had a eye-opening experience. The first day that I got into coaching, just all the hard work and the long hours. So it just made me appreciate all the coaches that I've had in the past. And going even back to high school, with Ed Southern and Don Cameron at East, those guys were tremendous as far as positioning me to play college basketball. So, I just have a great appreciation for coaching in general.
Adrian Griffin joining us here on Sports Daily, the newest inductee into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame, former Wichita East star, Seton Hall star, NBA star, now NBA coach. Adrian, it's an interesting connection because you've got Fred VanVleet there, the former Shocker. I think probably a lot of similarities for you guys in the way that you've come up, and he's become a star in this league. What has that connection been like? And do you guys have any bond over Wichita, or what's the relationship like with Fred, one of the all-time great Shockers?
Oh, for sure. Fred is, he's one of my all-time favorites. Just the way he competes. And then obviously we have the Wichita connection, and we talk about that all the time. And I just tease him, and I said, man, I'm from Wichita, but I think you're more loved in Wichita than I am. We kind of joke about it. And but I just love his toughness. A guy his size, they have to scrap and claw for every inch. And, there's just players that play above and beyond their size and their physical, sometimes limitations. And he just has a heart of a lion. He's a competitor. And I can recall back in the finals, and if he doesn't bang those threes in the fourth quarter, then we don't win a championship. And, his self-confidence is something that I always admired. We kind of cut from the same cloth, except he has an offensive game. I was more of a defensive player. Just, you fight and you claw for everything, and nobody's going to give you anything. I just love hearing him tell the story about draft night, just going undrafted, and he had his family and friends, and they were ready to celebrate, and it didn't happen for him. But it just made him more determined. And you talk about a guy that just overcame the odds, him going in the G League and winning in the G League, and then becoming one of the face of the Raptors. And I just have tremendous respect for him. And he's a solid family man, has a beautiful family. He just does all the things the right way. So tremendous respect for Fred VanVleet. Just an honor to know him and be able to coach him.
It's interesting. You brought up a championship here in Wichita for Fred VanVleet, several Valley championships and championships. You have a state championship at Wichita East. You have an NBA championship. We talk about championships all the time, very loosely and lightly with regards to, this is a championship team and this guy won a champion. Something, I guess what I want to ask you is, Championships don't come around every day, do they? People don't realize at the level of which you are at, how hard championships are. They don't even come around at the high school level that often. And to win a championship is really something special. And it bonds a man with coaches and players the rest of their lives. Talk a little about what championships mean to a guy like you.
Well, it's funny, I'll start with my NBA championship. It was 20 years to the date, that I was in the NBA that I won a championship. I entered the league in 1999 and we won in 2019, exactly 20 years. So it was surreal. But 20 years, I went to the finals as a player in 2006 and we were up 2-0 to Miami and ended up losing 4 in a row. And that was so heartbreaking. I think I needed therapy for like 10 years after that, just to get so close, and then, but you're so far away. It's extremely hard to win championships. And that's why, sometimes people take the Golden States and the San Antonios, for granted. If you look at the last 35 years about how many teams have actually won a championship, you'd be shocked and amazed. There's only a handful of teams outside of the Lakers, San Antonio, Chicago. Just go back. I think the Dallas Mavericks, Boston had one in the last 35 years, but it's not a lot of teams, So it's extremely hard. I always say the stars have to align. A lot of things have to go your way. You have to be healthy, number one. Your team has to come together and peak at the right time. And it's about matchups, you have to believe. And, when we made our run in 2019, we were down 2-0 against Milwaukee Bucks. They had Giannis. He was phenomenal. And we just, we made some adjustments. We were, game 7 Philly in the second round. Kawhi hits a tremendous shot. And then, we had a little bit of luck with Golden State, obviously. If Kevin Durant plays, that's probably a much tougher series. But again, it's a lot of things. The stars have to align. A lot of things have to go your well. Guys have to be healthy and playing at the peak at the right time. So just to be a part of that Toronto team, when you're in out of the country and you're playing for Toronto, you're really representing the country. And we had probably 4 or 5 million people at that parade. It was unbelievable. It was just hard to put in words. It was just a sea of red, a sea of people in the streets. It took us hours to get downtown to present, the trophy to the fans. But it was unbelievable. But I think my greatest memory of just winning that state championship back in high school is when my father and my mother were in the stands and I held that trophy up and I kind of presented it to them. Just kind of a way of honoring, my father who isn't here. He passed away in 2000. So it's kind of my fondest memory of just seeing him smile and the pride that he had on that day. I wanted to do it for him because he was the one that, taught, he was a pastor for 25 years and he was he was also in the military. So he was tough, he was very disciplined. He was always kind of on me and my brother to do the right thing and work hard. And he never made excuses. He was a great example. I remember there was times where we would get out and mow lawns together, and because he was teaching us how to work and not make an excuse. When we were kids, he would take us out and teach us how to pick up cans. Remember back then you could pick up cans and trade them in for 5 cents or whatnot. But he taught us that a man doesn't make an excuse. He takes care of his family, and you work extremely hard as you can, and you provide. So he taught us some great lessons, and so winning that state championship and seeing him up in the stands is one of the best memories that I continue to take with me.
That's fantastic stuff and what we love so much about high school sports. Adrian Griffin, I've got a couple more for you, Adrian, real quick, and then Paul will get you inducted. it's been a while now, and there was at the time when Wichita State, not this most recent time, but what was it, 3, 4, 5 years ago, was looking for a head coach. Your name kept getting mentioned to us as somebody of interest there. Was there any interest for you to come to college as you've made your way almost exclusively here through the NBA? Was that real interest, or was that just chatter?
Well, no, listen, I've invested so much time in the NBA, in professional sports. I know the game, I know the rules, I know the players. I invested 20. Now this is going into my 24th year. So I've always said, it would take a lot for me to, give up everything that I've sold into the NBA and pursue the college. Seton Hall would definitely, if they came knocking at the door, I would definitely consider them, as my alma mater. And then Wichita would be a close second because of just the respect I have for the city and the people there. My family is there. It would take a lot for me to leave the pros, but I have a lot of fond memories of just being there in Wichita. We won the state championship on Wichita State's floor. So yeah, there was some genuine interest, but again, it would take a lot because I feel like my number one goal is to become a NBA head coach. But I have a tremendous respect for the city of Wichita. So if I were to go to college, it would be Seton Hall and Wichita would be up there.
We appreciate that candidness, Adrian, and again, really good luck. We're all pulling for you with that Raptors gig open right now. I'm going to let you in on a much lighter one, though. I was in Canada to cover the Royals, so I don't know a lot about Canada, but when I was there, two things stood out to me, and I want to know which you are more on board with: poutine or ketchup-flavored potato chips. I thought ketchup-flavored potato chips were awesome. Not a big fan of poutine. What do you think?
To be honest, I haven't tried one of those. I just, for some reason, I don't know. I'm still like a Midwest kid at heart, and I know it's tradition in Canada, but I'm still like, give me some. My mom was great. She used to fried chicken and spaghetti, homemade spaghetti, and my dad, after every Sunday after church, he would get up and preach, and we'd go home and have a big family dinner, and so I'm still kind of Midwest kid at heart. I haven't taken to the poutine, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's something. It's
that is so funny. I'm about to ask what it is. I've heard of it, but I do not know what it is to this very day.
Yeah, it's like
gravy on fries and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
Still American at heart.
All right.
French fries.
There's cheese curds in there too, Savage. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, it probably will not appear at HTO at any time in the near future, is it?
Right.
Anyway, well, listen, I think that's a great note to end this interview on and get on with the formal induction. Is that okay with you, Jake, if we go ahead and get that induction done right now?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. That's what I say. Well, this is a real special moment. And Adrian, I'm so proud that you're able to go into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. You go in with a lot of wonderful, wonderful coaches and athletes. And it's amazing the group of people that you are now joining. Wichita has a tremendous history of sports and those who coached and those who played in the city of Wichita. And we're going to include you in that list as of now. And as of this moment, Adrian Griffin, you are officially nominated and elected into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. And you have the same rights and privileges that all of our members have. And congratulations, Adrian Griffin. You are now the latest Wichita Sports Hall of Fame inductee. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you so much. It's just such a tremendous honor. I feel like when I left Wichita, it's just been so hard to get back there, just with, professional sports. You're just always on the road. But Wichita is always in my heart. It's always home. My family still lives there. My mom still lives there. Nothing will ever replace, the city of Wichita. There's so many. I credit them. I never felt like I was at a disadvantage when I left home at the age of 18. I always felt I was well prepared for life because all the wonderful people, I want to thank my mom and my dad, my brothers and sisters. I've had tremendous support through the city. My teacher from Wichita East, Miss Givens, she actually filled in my wedding. My mom couldn't make the my wedding with my wife Kathy, and Miss Givens filled in, and so that speaks volumes how close I am with her and how much respect I've had for her and the people that have helped me along the way. So I definitely want to thank my wife Kathy, who's been with me the last 7 years. She's such a solid rock for me, and just you don't get here on your own. There's just so many people that I can't even thank. It would just take up too much time. But I do want to thank one person in particular, my CBA coach when I was in the minor leagues, Tyler Jones. He really had such a great impact on my coaching philosophy because when you go undrafted, you just feel lost. You feel like you're not valued, and it was a very tremendous time in my life. But he used to, an hour before practice and an hour after practice, he would work me out, and he would always tell me that I would make it. And so I try to transfer that over to the players that I work in. When you believe in someone, it's very powerful. And I just want to encourage everyone we always teach people or try to lecture people and believe in yourself, but sometimes you need somebody to believe in you before you believe in yourself. So take some time today, invest in someone else's dream. I had so many people invest in my dream that tell me that I believe in you, and I try to pay it forward and let the players and the people that I mentor, just let them know that I believe in you. And that approach can change somebody's life. So I'm eternally grateful for all the people that supported me and voted for me. You have no idea what this means to me.
Well, we appreciate it, Adrian. Congratulations again. Good luck. We're all pulling for you to be a head coach very soon, hopefully. You've certainly deserved it. And let's talk again soon when that happens, okay?
Will do. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you guys. Thanks again.
Adrian Griffin, Wichita Sports Hall of Fame, Wichita legend. So nice to hear Adrian talk so much about his time here fondly. A lot to get through. If you joined us in the middle, go back and listen to the whole thing. This guy, you're going to be an NBA head coach and continue to make Wichita proud. It's going to happen soon. Yeah. All right, 869-1240. Let's take a quick break. We'll digest some of that. I think there's some really interesting stuff in there as well. Adrian Griffin, Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. This is Sports Daily. We'll be right back. All right, let's go in 3, 2, 1. Use a BetMGM bonus bet to place your next wager on any game in any sport. To receive your bonus bet, simply log into your BetMGM account every Saturday and Wednesday between May 13th through June 7th. Bet on any game of your choice. Then add any type of bet on any game to your bet slip and activate your bonus bet. There's no deposit or additional wager required. Want even more BetMGM action? Enjoy the best daily promotions, live betting options, and the all-new signature bets only at BetMGM. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. Promotion may differ per customer. BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus and physically present in Kansas to bet. Existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. A lot of great stuff there with Adrian Griffin. It's been a while since we've caught up with him. Just so much good information, fond memories, insight into his life and career, which hopefully very soon takes the next step as an NBA head coach. He is the odds-on favorite to land that Toronto job. He's deserved an NBA head coaching job for a long time.
Yep.
And you can hear some of the reasons why NBA teams like him so much. You can go back on the Odyssey app and listen to that. I thought one thing that was interesting, and I've wondered this for a long time. When Isaac Brown was hired, Adrian Griffin's name was thrown around a lot. Now, you know, there was we were told a lot of interest there. So I definitely wanted to ask him about that. And it sounded to me like, fellas, that there were 2 spots. There are 2 spots. I mean, Adrian Griffin just told us this. Seton Hall is alma mater, or Wichita State to come back home. So, that's an interesting path to consider. Had that season not gone so magically, what might have been and whatever. But in the end, Adrian Griffin, if he becomes a college head coach, that's great. I think the things that he talked about there means he could have a big impact on young people's lives. But we got to get this guy on an NBA bench in that head spot. It's got to happen. It's needed to happen for a long time. I think it will. And that's it's going to be a really cool moment when it does happen for him.
Well, I think
it's definitely interesting, just with the fact that, that he has spent basically his entire coaching career in the NBA. There's a little bit of a, it's a different world when you're going and coaching in college with recruiting and, all of that. And especially now with NIL, transfer portal, all of that. So I understand that he'd want to be picky and selective, if he would ever go to the college game. But it makes a lot of sense for him to be the head coach of the Raptors. And if it's not the Raptors, he needs to be the head coach somewhere in the NBA.
Right. And I'll tell you, he's a class act. I'm sitting here just 10 seconds ago. I got a text from Adrian. He says, "That was awesome. Thank you so much." So, I mean, that's a class deal. I mean, he is 100% class. To come back to Wichita State, if the timing is correct, would be really something special. But it's always nice to see somebody who loves Wichita like that. I wish we'd have had more time. I wish we could have gone another segment because I wanted to ask him about the NBA and what's going on right now in the playoffs. It's been fascinating. And by the way, Tommy, how do you like getting spanked a little bit by Jacob? I mean, when you made the claim, no, it's over. The Warriors, it's all over. Put a fork in them. They're done.
He did say they were going to win.
The Warriors would win Game 5. I said they would win a game with the Warriors with their backs against the wall. I think the Lakers win the series, but I thought the Warriors would win Game 5.
Well, but Jacob's on the other hand, and I got to go with Jacob on this one. I mean, when you're right, Jacob. I think the Warriors may end up making that run. Something making Tommy look bad. It's hard on the kids. You got to be careful. You got to stop doing that so much.
I had forgotten about this until I was reminded, and it jarred my memory today, that when the Cavs came back and beat the Warriors, the Cavs were down 3-1. And it's probably been pointed out more than this. It was me late to this storyline. Steph Curry's got a chance to flip that over on LeBron, right? Like that storyline exists in this series.
Ain't happening.
Pretty interestingly. But I thought we all thought the Warriors would win last night. I still think the Lakers are pretty heavy favorites in the series. But it is the Warriors. I love that series so much. God, I hope it goes to 7 games.
Hey, and by the way, all bets are off when Anthony Davis is getting wheeled out of the arena in a wheelchair.
Yeah. That was strange.
I'm not sure I saw what I saw because I wasn't sure that it was as well. I shouldn't say, funny things happen with the human body, and I shouldn't make a judgment. But guys, I'm not sure I saw what I saw. I mean, I'm not sure I saw what was bad. But anyway, with that being said, that was strange. That was weird. And, no Anthony Davis. Does that make you want to rethink a little bit, Tommy? Maybe just a little bit?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean,
you sure?
I think the Lakers have the edge here still. I mean, Warriors might get Game 6. I don't know, but I still think the Lakers win the series.
Okay.
Anthony Davis, and I wouldn't even hold that against you in your prediction, Tommy, because I do think that changes things quite a bit. But that's a part of it when it's like the Warriors aren't dead. The biggest part for me is they're still the Warriors. They still have the Splash Brothers. They still have Wiggins. They still have Poole, who should be a talented player. They still have Draymond Green. Like so many of those pieces, they're older, are still there, though, from last year's championship team, by the way. But the other part is like Anthony Davis, LeBron, like the Lakers are old too. Like what happens if something changes? And boy, if there's no Anthony Davis, does LeBron still have that game in him? Like where he can absolutely just take it by himself. Not that he has to take it by himself, but he's going to kind of have to if it's going to be like no Anthony Davis, shoulder the load, get it on your shoulders and all that. Let's go to the phone lines real quick before we take a break here. Brady wants to talk about the Adrian Griffin interview. Brady, what's up?
Hey, I really appreciate and enjoyed your interview with Adrian Griffin. Now, I wanted to add to your last comment about the Warriors. Don't forget also Steve Kerr as well. And, at this point in his career, he's pretty crafty. He taught Mike Brown, the Sacramento Kings head coach, a few things. And notice that Mike was not really successful as a head coach until he was an assistant under Steve Kerr and the Warriors staff. But I wanted to talk about Adrian, and I really appreciate and enjoyed that interview. One of the things that I don't know if he mentioned, because I caught the tail end of it, is when Adrian Griffin first got his NBA opportunity as a player, he went to the Celtics, and he wasn't right out of college. He was in his mid-20s, maybe late 20s. And at the time, Tom Thibodeau, the head Knicks coach, was an assistant at that time. Tibbs is known in the NBA as being very detailed on defense, and Adrian was a tremendous defensive player. And he developed a rapport with Coach Thibodeau and the Celtics management. And I think Adrian may have even coached under Coach Thibodeau, who changed the direction of the Knicks. And I think it's Adrian's time now, you guys. Everybody goes through, is it their time? While JJ Redick, as an example, may be an outstanding coach someday, JJ's never coached a day in his life, and while that might not be, a prerequisite to be a head coach anymore, I just think the reputation in the league, I think players would listen to Adrian. I think he's better suited for the NBA game. And I think it's his time, you guys, at this point. He's paid his dues. He's not looking for a shortcut. I look at him a lot like Tyronn, Lue when he first came into the league. I'll never forget when he was an assistant, Ty was at Cleveland, and they talked about whether he was ready to be a head coach or not. And they just asked LeBron James his feeling on it. I look at Adrian much the same way. There's no need to do a nationwide search there, searching camp. They've got their guy right there. It's time, you guys, to give him an opportunity.
Yep.
And playing at Seton Hall in the Big East and his preparation and in Wichita and his upbringing in the Midwest will make him an excellent coach. And following Nick Nurse also is not a bad thing at all. I mean, Nick's going to have another opportunity in this league at some point. And it's going to be interesting to see where the Raptors go. But I really, really like Adrian Griffin. So great interview, you guys. Appreciate the show.
Thanks, Brady. And yeah, go back and listen on the Odyssey app to the beginning, because he did talk about when Paul asked him about some of the coaches that have had an influence, and like the pedigree alone of who he's coached with and under, and for as long as he's been doing it and the success that they've had. Yeah, it's beyond time for Adrian Griffin to get that chance, because what was so cool about him going back through the coaches, Tommy, was hearing like from Don Nelson to Tom Thibodeau, like
Jeff
the most
Van Gundy.
polar opposite, like offense, defense. Like he's got such a broad range of, coaching experience that there's all like, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's a no-brainer. This guy's played or coached for everyone.
Yeah. There's going to be an NBA team, you would think. And if it's not the Raptors, it should be somebody else. Taking a chance on Adrian Griffin as a first-time head coach. And you never know until you try, right? He's never been a head coach before, but he's paid his dues. He's been an assistant for a long time, studied under some of the greatest minds in the game.
I mean, they're taking chances.
Give him a run
Steve
at it. Let's see how it goes.
Steve Nash, Jason Kidd. Like, give me a break. Like, let's get a coach in there. And by the way, Paul, that relationship with Fred VanVleet when you're the front runner for the Raptors job is probably a pretty important resume line, too.
I think it could be. Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. Let's give away some Fast X tickets. Sneak peek 1 week from today at Boulevard Town West Theaters. If you want to check out Fast X before everybody else, call the IHOP hotline 869-1240. Jad will get us some winners, and we'll be right back. All right, Diane, congratulations. Headed to Fast X, courtesy of Sports Daily. Welcome back in. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor, Paul Savage with you here. A lot of time spent with Adrian Griffin in the hour, so we've got just a couple of minutes. Paul, I wanted to get your take on this, and then Tommy can react to what your opinion on this is. Hunter Dickinson, there are rumors that it was like a 2-year NIL deal, upwards potentially of like $2 million a year. Now, none of that's confirmed or anything like that. That's just sort of the chatter around it. Does that surprise you, Paul? You're always interested in this kind of stuff. Does it surprise you that it can get that big?
It surprised me in the world of NIL. The one surprise that I've had, and Tommy, you might appreciate this, and that is the Manning kid, Arch Manning, the nephew of some of the biggest NFL quarterback stars in the history of football. who said, I'm not going to take a dime of NIL money until I'm the starter at the University of Texas. Now, that surprised me. A kid not taking NIL because he wants to perform and earn his money. Very surprising, very commendable. But no, nothing would surprise me with regards to this particular situation. So I don't know what to think of it because there's got to be something we don't know. I don't know what it is we don't know, but there's something we don't know.
Tommy, Arch Manning, probably it's easier to turn that down when you don't need it as much as some might.
Well,
I mean, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
I commend him for it too. I think it's cool, but like, I'm not going to hold it against somebody else that they're not willing to do that because not everybody's uncles and grandpa were NFL Hall of Famers, right? Like,
Right.
Well,
I've got zero issue with the Hunter Dickinson news. I think that it's a little shocking to the system that he's public about it, saying, look, anybody would leave their job for a $10,000 a year increase. And so why are you hating on me for doing the same thing? I'm not upset with him. I don't think that that's the wrong case at all. I just think that it's a shock to the system and to the way that, everything has always historically gone in college athletics. It's a little bit shocking to hear an athlete like openly say, yes, I went and did this because of the amount of money that I received. But we all knew that was happening. We all knew that Hunter Dickinson more than likely was going to go to the highest bidder. And,
we don't know that they were the highest bidder, right? Like,
but
we
look,
don't know that.
I think they can play in tandem though, right? They can play in tandem. It can be making a boatload of money and also the best opportunity to win a national championship. Like those two things work together, and the overall package, not just the financial aspect of it, but playing for Bill's self and all those other things we've talked about. Sure, it all goes into it, but I don't blame Hunter Dickinson whatsoever for trying to, get as much money as possible.
Well, get used to it. Get used to it because that's going to be the rule rather than the exception. And
because that's what the market says it should be.
That's right.
That's totally fine.
And the opportunity, the window that is open to make this kind of money is limited. It's really
it is for
limited.
Pro athlete.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm
Unless
not
they
sure.
get to the pros. That's right.
I'm also not sure that Hunter Dickinson is a long-term pro in the NBA. He might be. You never know.
Totally.
And he could be developed in that way. So why not cash in now when you know it's actually on the table in front of you?
You're going to see more of that. You're going to see more guys that are fringe NBA players have a better earning potential in college than they do to take that shot or to go play internationally right out of the gates. And that's what I love about it, by the way. And here's the other part of it. And this, I'm going to bring this on a turn into a full swing sort of situation. Kansas pays that much to basketball players. Michigan doesn't. Why? Because Michigan has an emphasis on football, right? So Kansas can because they emphasize basketball. Wichita State can. I think the Shockers are a sleeping giant in all this when you don't have to divert that money to football. I say it all the time.
Yep. You got to pony up.
869-1240, the number. Jad, let's do another pair of Fast X tickets just because. 869-1240, IHOP hotline. First caller gets more Fast X tickets for a week from today. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Sports Daily with Jacob and Tommy. Still to come, Jim Rome at 11, right here on KFH.
Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, that's it for us. Good stuff. You can find it all back on the Odyssey app. Coming up today, what's on tap on the network? Jim Rome at 11. Then you get Royals in some day baseball. Can they keep it up? They're sort of heating up here, especially offensively. Actually, one of the best offensive teams in baseball in the month of May. They'll play the White Sox. Pregame coverage begins at 1 o'clock. Paul, thank you. Good induction today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys.
Tommy and I'll be back tomorrow for a Friday edition. Jad Chambers will be back producing with us. We have some chances again at some Fast X tickets as well. See you tomorrow, everybody.